think it was 2 years ago. I wanted to name this new thing that I was doing. Um, and I'm a yoga teacher. I've done retreats before. And I was just thinking about like, what could I name this offering? And radiate it's just like radiate. So I was looking
Nice.
for handles on Instagram because I wanted to do like everything radiate. And I saw Radiate Retreats was taken. And I was like, oh, darn. So I go and I look at your account and I was like, wow, this is actually really amazing.
Aw.
Yeah. So I've been following you since then. And
Oh,
it's just been there, just kind of like an appreciation. And then when we launched this channel, I was like, I need to reach out to her because there's a reason why we both resonate with Radiate. And you could be anywhere in the world. You could be like in the US, in Colorado, in Copenhagen, in Europe, but you're in Mexico, like me, in Tulum, right there. And the vibe is right. I love the work that you're doing with women and bringing them together and helping them to connect with themselves, empowering women. And I was reading a little bit about your own healing journey and kind of like taking people along for it. So I'm really excited to meet you and more excited to chat with you.
aw, thank you. That's so sweet. I'm excited too.
Yeah. So tell me about Radiate. How did you get to that name? What made you think of that name?
It kind of just popped in my head. I was just thinking about like the essence of the retreat, like the goal was, and it was really to help women find their like inner radiance again. But I was like thinking of like, helping women find their spark again, their inner joy, their inner light. And I just like probably at like 2 in the morning, how good ideas always come, just popped in my head like, what about Radiate Retreat? And then I have like a background in marketing. So I started like playing with the marketing and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is good. And it just really fit. And it's just kind of continued to flow that way ever since.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. There's so much synchronicity. I also have a background in marketing.
Really? No
Hmm.
way.
There are no coincidences, Chelsea. I don't believe in coincidences.
No.
So I was reading a little bit about your journey. Where are you from originally?
Washington State, a town called Arlington. It's like 2 hours north of Seattle.
Oh, nice. And then how did you find your way to Tulum?
Gosh. So in 20 like 18, I was doing like a solo backpacking trip through Central America, and a friend of mine was going to join me for parts of it, and I think she had seen Tulum on Instagram, and she's like, "Why don't we start there?" So we spent a couple months in Tulum, and I loved it. But it wasn't like to do any of these healing modalities. It was more like fun, like, solo girls backpacking trip. But I had seen there was lots of like healing modalities and other stuff like that here. And then fast forward 2 years later in 2020, when I was like really in my depression, um, and I had tried everything like therapy and drugs. And I mean, by drugs, I mean medications, like Western medications, and hospital outpatient programs, and nothing was really happening. And my husband at the time was like, what about Tulum? Like, you loved it there. There's supposed to be other healing stuff there. Why don't you try going back to Tulum? It's like, you know what? That's a good idea. At that point, I was so desperate, I would have tried anything. And so I just went back to Tulum for a month with my cat and was like, I will try anything. And I tried all of these different healing modalities and met some amazing healers and shamans and people that really impacted me. And yeah, Tulum was it.
Wow. So you live there officially. You've lived there since 2020?
Well, I go back and forth between Washington and here. I've had a struggle deciding where I want my home base to be. And this year I decided I'm really tired of repacking up stuff into storage and taking it out. And I think I'm going to start transitioning back to making Washington my home base. I'll still always be coming to Tulum for the retreats, but I think that's kind of how I'm transitioning.
Okay.
But yeah, since 2020, this has been like a part-time home base.
And how did you, when was your first retreat? How did you get started? How did you decide like, all right, I'm doing retreats?
Yeah, so I came, like I said, in 2020 to try these different healing modalities, and they some things just impacted me so much that the end of my trip I was just like, I have to share this with other women. Like the different things I'd experienced, I just felt so called to share it with others, specifically women. And so I just kind of reached out to all the people I had been working with, all the facilitators and healers, and kind of told them my idea. I was like, I just want to gather up a bunch of women to share this with. And they were like, yeah, we love it. Let's do it. And so I just like one night made the flyer, and I was like, I'm just going to make a flyer and post it and see if anyone would be interested in this. And I got tons of responses. I think I had like 15 women on that retreat. I really just put together all my favorite places, all the things that had impacted me the most, and put it together in a week. And we had, yeah, like 15 women. And then at the end of the retreat, because I only planned on doing that one, they were like, this changed my life. You have to keep doing this. You can't stop. Like, you've got to bring more women. They were just really impacted. They were like, this is what you need to be doing. So then I got my business license and I started planning more. And now it's been 3 years. That one was in the beginning of 2021. 3 years, and I've done 4 retreats a year.
Wow, that's a
I think,
lot.
like, yeah, I think over 100 women have come now. I don't know the exact numbers. I should have researched that before going on the podcast.
That's okay. Wow, that's
But
a
yeah,
lot. That's incredible. That's
thank
incredible.
you.
And I'm gonna let you take a sip. I'm gonna let you take a sip of your tea.
Thank you. Yeah, I got my tea with me. I
Hmm. So, what made you focus on women?
don't know. I just always really felt called to working with women. When I was a missionary, I worked with like a women's Bible study. I've always been involved in like women's groups and mentoring other women. I think it's just like as women, there's things that we go through that a man will never understand, no matter how much he's been with a woman or learned about women or experienced. There's like things we go through in our bodies and our minds that only we can understand as women. And I just feel like I grew up being told to like be quiet or have it together or don't show your crazy side or, contain yourself. And that festered so much, and it grew into like outbursts and anger and dysregulated nervous system and not understanding my body. And I just feel like as women, we need to share, or we should share more and tell each other more what we're going through and with our bodies and with our emotions. And I've seen just by sharing that with other women, like how much healing has taken place, being able to say like, I'm going through that too, or really, that's normal, my body does that too. And I just feel like it's so empowering for women to just gather in a circle and share and talk. And we're going through so much that we don't realize other women are going through too. And I've just always felt really called and inspired to open up about that.
Yeah, I really like that. And I resonate with that. I've been struggling myself to, marketing terms, niche down into something. And I also
Hmm.
feel a call to work with women, but some things like, no, but don't leave the guys out. Don't leave the guys out. But then I always,
Yeah.
what's coming to me, what's in front of me, women.
Yeah.
I don't have, men wanting to learn things from me. It's mostly women. And I feel like because of my own journey, I want to help other women deal with the things that I've dealt with, but sometimes it is difficult to kind of like pick one. At least for me, it's been difficult.
Yeah. It's hard because I do have lots of men asking, that are needing this. And I do breath work for men and I do different like 1 day events and I love working with men. But I also have tons of my own trauma from men. And so I don't feel that I'm like in a position to really be the one guiding them through these things. I would love to eventually find like a male partner who wants to do that and is qualified to do that. And we could maybe team up because there's totally a time and space for the men to join in on this. And that can be super powerful and healing too. But where I am right now in my journey and what I'm still healing from, I think I got to have women around me.
Yeah. I was doing some research on loneliness for another video, another channel, and this I found to be very interesting that are happier with digital connections, digital relationships. Like they feel like that's enough. That can be enough. Just
Mhm.
having someone call them or having someone text them. But women require physical interaction. Like we need to touch each
Interesting.
other, we need to hug each other in order for it to feel enough. And so this is based on
Hmm.
scientific studies that they've done with different groups that they've worked with. And I just found, I was like, no wonder, because where I am right now, we're a bit secluded. You know, my
Hmm.
husband, he's good. You know, we got the dog, we got the cat. People text and call every once in a while, but I don't have that women's group, you know, and I
Yeah.
do feel like having a phone call is just, it's not enough. I want to be there with you.
Yeah. That's interesting. I
It
didn't know
is really,
that.
yeah, very interesting. So I mean,
Yeah.
more reason for women to get together on retreats.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, and I think like as women, we're so often like comparing ourselves or feeling jealous, or that if we would just all open up, like sometimes I'll tell another woman like I'm feeling super jealous of you because I've always wanted whatever, but just like be real about it, and then they'll
Yeah,
be like, no way, I've been feeling jealous because of whatever. Like our bodies are our chemical balances are changing every single week. Like we should be talking about that. So yeah, I just find it super helpful to like share and build other women up because when other women go up, we go up. That's just how it works.
yeah. I'm really glad you said that, because a lot of times when I talk to people about, you know, like the female competition, maybe they're just better than me. It's possible that they're just better than me, but they're like, "Oh no, I don't see that." Um, and no, it's not like that anymore. And I'm like, "Oh, this is a very deep wound. It's a very deep and
Yeah.
ancient wound. You know, I'm sure it comes from
Yeah.
the times when women were being burned for doing things and they were snitching on each other, or like, I don't know where it comes from. I'm
Hmm.
just making things up,
Yeah.
honestly. But it's something that, and you hear a lot about how the patriarchy has kind of like put women against each other so that they can't team up and lift each other
Hmm.
up, like you were saying. And I think that
Hmm.
wound, I mean, if you're doing that, that's amazing. Just to be completely transparent and vulnerable, and let's hold space for the wounds that we've created between each other, so we can heal those things and see that we don't need to feel that way. Like we're better together and we can do greater things. You know, 10 of us versus one of us. One of us here, one of us there,
Yeah.
one of us here. But like 10, 20, 30, doing this big thing, it becomes something
Hmm.
colossal and magical.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, okay, you said you have a background in marketing. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, my first job out of college was I was the communications director of a private international school in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. So basically, I just did all of their marketing and web design and social media. So in college, I studied journalism, missionary studies and Bible. So the journalism is kind of where I got the marketing education. But then for the school in Haiti, they basically had no online presence. So I kind of taught myself. And then I ended up doing like social media marketing for a fashion company there. And then I got a job as a virtual assistant for a remote virtual assistant company, which is amazing. They're called Rivley. And I started doing marketing for different clients of theirs, usually social media. And I just like loved it and thrived at it. So then I ended up doing the marketing for Rivley. I was their marketing director for a couple of years. So that's kind of the rundown of it.
That's awesome. And I mean that I'm sure that helped you. Marketing is one of the biggest pain points when it comes to retreats because a
Mhm.
lot of people leading them don't have that background. They need to learn it. And
Yeah.
they're more focused on their wellness craft, whether it's a yoga teacher or a spiritual guide, whatever it is, right? So
Mhm.
how did your background help you to, I mean, get 15 people on your first retreats? That's unheard of sometimes.
I mean, I feel that I'm very good at the design aspect. So I design my own website and all my branding and all that, and that I love. But the actual like marketing part, I actually like hate. And I realized that when I was doing it as I was job, I was like, you know what? I'm actually not having fun. And it's so much harder for me to do my own marketing. Like I can easily take on a client and be like, this is what you need. But with my own stuff, it's so hard. I feel like it's not good enough or it's not ready to go out or there's so much more I could do with it. So it really helped me with the design and branding aspect, but I actually am having a huge roadblock with the marketing with my own stuff. I just get so stuck in my head and I almost feel like I know so much that I don't know where to start because I'm like, well, I should have this and that and that and that and I want to do it all at once and it's really hard for me to like move.
Yeah.
So that's also been my biggest pain point.
Okay. Yeah. I feel you on that. It is so like I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, I'm in the process of getting clear on what I offer. But I can look at someone else
Mhm.
and be like, oh, you do this. Oh, you do this. And then I'm like, what do I do?
Exactly.
I don't know. What do I do? What's my offering? I feel you on that.
Exactly.
But I
Mhm.
think one thing you do really well is like you mentioned design, just setting the vibe because we are very visual creatures. And I mean, one of the things I love from like your feed and just the way you present things visually is like I see myself in it. There's
Aw.
yeah, there's just like these natural tones and lots of green, lots of sand, lots of I mean, it radiates peace and tranquility and beautiful things.
Wow, that means so much to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I
The
mean
best compliment.
it's true. I mean that is a great way to attract people, and when you put so much attention to detail into the simple things, into one thing, it can make a big difference
Mhm.
than trying to be everywhere doing all the things. So I
Mhm.
think that part at least you've got down pat.
Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Hmm.
So, okay, from that, I want to ask you about the space because taste is objective. I resonate with your taste. I think you have very good taste. That's kind of like an
Thank
extension. Yeah, you have very
you.
good taste. So how does that affect your like how you choose the place where you're going to have the retreat?
Yeah, I feel like I'm really picky when it comes to all things the retreat. I visit it first. I also have to get like a feeling. Like I that peace that you're talking about that you feel through the screen or whatever, I have to feel that when I step on the property. And so I'll go like because I've partnered with a few different villas and beach resorts. So I'll go first and just like get a feel of the place and walk around and to the trees, very like hippie. Like I just feel like I have to feel the right energy there and comfort. Radiate Retreat is a luxury retreat, so I have to make sure that it also feels luxury and nice bed linens and air conditioning. And but I also really look for a nice gathering place. I want everyone to be able to sit around the table in the morning with their coffee and share, and just like a lot of space to hold these, yoga classes or ceremonies or practices. So, yeah, I would say like a gathering space, ceremony space. I like it to be in nature. So, there either needs to be like a ton of jungle or the beach. Um, Comforts, luxuries, and then, yeah, I really like to feel this energy when I'm there. And also, one more thing, probably the staff or the owner of the place,
Mhm.
working with them, that's a big deal to me because I feel like everyone that puts their, even if it's just a little touch on Radiate Retreat, they're adding to the energy of Radiate Retreat. So, from the person who makes my candles to the drivers to the person who owns the villa, I also need to make sure that they're aligned with Radiate Retreat. And so I've actually left spaces because I didn't feel that the owner was aligned with the vibe of Radiate Retreat. That's very important to me as well.
Yeah, that's so intentional. I
Hmm.
love that.
Thank you.
And it's
Thank you.
true. I mean, if you can get along with the owner, if the owner is, if you're vibing with them, it does add to the space, like the energy of the space, because it's a reflection of
Hmm.
them also.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Mm.
You're just getting better and better
Yes,
with every question.
I really am. Every single time it gets a little bit better.
So, on that note, what are some of the challenges that you faced on your first retreat that you've been like slowly you've noticed this evolution of like, okay, I'm never doing that again. We need to start doing this. We need to stop doing that. Like, what's the difference from your
Mhm.
first retreat and your last retreat?
Honestly, they've all been pretty amazing. Even the first one, there wasn't really any big like, oh, I'm never doing that again. There's really just been, oh, I know how we can make this even better. So, like, from moving from one spa to a, you know, Mayan clay spa in the jungle with, your own private masseuse and a 3-hour spa circuit versus just a spa day.
Yeah.
Or, the first restaurant, oh, what if we did it rooftop candlelit? Or what if, instead of this chef coming, we have the best chef in Tulum? So I feel like it's always been amazing. I've only ever tried to think of how I can make it even better. Um, I will say the only like maybe one thing that I would be like, I wouldn't love to do that again is I've noticed when there's groups of friends that come, it's harder for all the women to bond, and I've noticed that there's not as much like breakthrough.
Hmm.
And I think it's because when you go alone, you're really pushed out of your comfort zone and to be vulnerable and share with other women. And the groups that have had lots of close friends come, not all the time, but sometimes, I've noticed that it's easier to like stay in your comfort zone with your friend. And so I always encourage people to come alone or um, yeah, not with their best friend. That might be the only thing that I'm like, well, maybe like I suggest that in the future. But I've also had groups of friends come that it wasn't like that. Um, but other than that, there haven't really been any, oh, I'm never doing that again. There's only been, oh, I know how I can make this even better.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about challenges? Has there been any part of the retreat process or business that you have found to be challenging that you really needed to like learn more about this?
Yeah. Back to the marketing, like getting
Okay.
signups ahead of time too. I've always been someone who books a flight like the day before. And so planning things like a year in
Wow.
advance is really hard for me.
The day before.
But
That's crazy.
sometimes but people need to save for this and book flights, and so out of respect for others, I need to try to plan it more ahead of time. So that's been a real challenge of me is for me is to plan a retreat that's not for another year. um like at first I was planning them like 3 months in advance, and that was working, but now it's like, okay, I need to start planning these more ahead of time. People need to plan their years out, but I have a really hard time getting the sign up sometimes, and I deal with a lot of insecurity of like reaching out to people and sharing about it, because I've had things pushed on me, like multi-level company marketing things, and I like sometimes get annoyed, and I'm like, I don't want to be that annoying person that keeps reaching out. But also most of my signups have been through me sharing about it. So it's just been this struggle of like how much to share, how much to reach out, how much to post about it, and getting those signups, because it's like my retreat, it's like locked in, it's amazing, like, but it's getting the people to come and to share what it is, because it's something so transformative that's hard to explain through photos or text. And even the women, when they leave, they're like, this changed my life, I want to share about it, but I have no words. And so it's really hard to explain what it is until you go. And often in the beginning, people will be like, oh, that's kind of expensive. And then on the last day, they're like, I would have paid double for this. It changed my life. But I have a disconnect of portraying that before they sign up.
Hmm.
So that's really been my big struggle that I'm still working on as of this morning.
Yeah. Yesterday, I was talking to a friend of mine, Mary. He has an account on Instagram called Yoga Daily Practice. Yoga Practice Daily? Yoga
Hmm.
Daily Practice. I don't know. It has like 2.4 million followers. And
Hmm.
I asked him, like, how did you do this? And how did you make a business out of it? And he was saying,
Yeah.
for the first 3 to 6 months, do not sell anything. Do not sell anything.
Oh.
Just give. Just give, 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 offer value. And
Hmm.
his page is not about him. Like, you never see him. You wouldn't know
Yeah.
that it's his. He features other people.
Okay.
And
Cool.
like along those lines, there's another page that I really love called Sky Cave Retreats. Have you seen that with
Okay.
the
Mm.
mask? They go into like a dark cave for 3 days with no light, and then they come out.
It's a dark retreat. I've heard of these. Yeah.
And you'll never see the facilitators, the hosts. Like I don't see them. I went to the website. You can't even find their names.
Huh.
Because they don't want to shine a light on, it's not about them, it's about the experience. So their whole page
Mhm.
is capturing the reaction of people when they take their blindfold off. And a lot of times they're not saying anything. They're just like, they're
Yeah.
crying, or they're like, wow, or they're
Oh.
just like, staring out. So maybe that's something, I don't know, maybe that inspires some creative juices on how you can
Yeah.
capture the experience.
Yeah, I will look at their page. Thank you.
Hmm.
Because that's often what it is. They're just like, wow, I have no words.
Yeah. And I love the
So
reel
thank
that
you.
you posted yesterday or the day before that I shared.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, I had a amazing videography company called Ayasha Media from Haiti come. And the woman Mel, she actually partook in the retreat because I told her, like, I want you to understand what you're filming. So she went into the Temascal Sweat Lodge with us. She did the cacao ceremony, and then she came back and filmed one. And so it was really special because she knew exactly what they were going through. And you saw her holding the camera with tears down her eyes because she was really like feeling it. And I told her, like, there's no way else I would have wanted this to be recorded than someone like you who has really gone through it and understands deeply what the women are going through.
Wow. Well, Chelsea,
Yeah,
you are
so that
so
was a clip from
amazing.
that. Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
I love how intentional you are. Like, everything has intention and is very
Thank
mindful. I
you.
really like that.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna cry too. Maybe it's Friday.
Oh,
It's the Venus energy. It's
was
just
there an
really
eclipse?
nice. Hmm?
Was there an eclipse? Yesterday, maybe.
On the second. What's
Okay,
today? So
the
ago.
4th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. But I was reading that today the moon is in Scorpio, so deep emotions.
Oh, good to know. Good to
We
know.
are feeling it. Okay, so
Yeah.
I wanna ask you about community. How did you build yours? Like how did those first 15 people, were they your friends, or did you have an email list, or do you build community online? Do you build it physically where you are?
So the first one, lots of them were from my hometown, or through Facebook, like of a friend of a friend or a friend of a cousin of whatever. A lot of them were like second removed people I knew from my hometown. So I'm from a really small town where everybody kind of knows everybody, which has really worked in my advantage because if someone goes back home and talks about my retreat, kind of the whole town hears about it. So that's been really nice. I would say like maybe 60% of my retreat guests have been somehow from my hometown.
Wow.
And then most of it has been through word of mouth, through Facebook, through friends of friends. So I've built a really strong community from my hometown. Women who, have never done this kind of stuff before. In my hometown is, pretty like churchy, for lack of better words. So they were like kind of scared of this stuff, but they trusted me because they knew me since I was a little kid. And that's kind of how it's been. Like women, they come try this stuff for the first time and then go back home and I'm like, you should meet this woman. She was also on my retreat and she's also looking for community. And it's kind of come together like that. Finding a community here has been like easy and hard because everyone is in the wellness sector. So it's almost like oversaturated with all of this stuff. So it's hard to find like really your people. And that took me a couple of years um, of like going to lots of different events and meeting lots of different people. Um, Lots of my community here was actually like my neighbors or like friends of friends. But yeah, in terms of the retreat community, really my hometown has been a huge blessing for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Part of it is luck. Everyone has luck in
Yeah.
different ways, you know.
Mhm.
So that's really great that it worked in your favor. And I think you're living the
Mhm.
dream as far as word of mouth. I think that's the best kind of marketing.
Yeah, but it's been carrying me for 3 years now, and now I'm like, okay, now I need to really get like a marketing plan because the word of mouth is going to slowly start to dry out.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to expand out of, just my town and the word of mouth of the
Hmm.
people that have come.
Okay, I'm gonna touch on something taboo. In true
Okay.
Scorpio, in true Scorpio
I
form.
love taboo subjects.
Well, so I see that you work with a lot of facilitators. There's so much I want to say. Let me just kind of like put it in order.
Hmm.
Um, okay, first of all, I love that you are this bridge, taking people from something they've known their whole life and helping them dip their toe or maybe even drop into their waist to these new experiences that a lot of times the unknown is scary, or especially in churchy communities could be seen as evil, or something that's not acceptable. So
Hmm.
I think that's something that is needed to just help people open their eyes to new experiences, seeing what else is out
Hmm.
there, and making the unknown known so that we can
Hmm.
expand our horizons. And
Hmm.
I love that part. The other
Hmm.
part is, um, I'm so my mother's side is Cuban, and my father's side is Irish German, which is bam, what the body came out like. So
Yeah.
I I've seen kind of like from both angles what it is like to be a white woman trying to lead these things, especially in a very Latin and native space. So
Mhm.
I mean, how have you found that challenging, or what are some things you do to kind of balance out those energies? Or what I mean, yeah, what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot from the people I've worked with here. I also have my business partner, Andy, who she started out just kind of assisting me the first retreat, but she's a Reiki master, a yoga instructor, and she's Mexican from Guadalajara. And recently this year, I brought her in as a partner, and she's been absolutely amazing. She balances me out where I need balance. She calls me out when I need to be called out. Um, she's kind of like we're yin and yang, and she's helped me so much. And I feel like because I lived here for almost a year before really doing a retreat, I just made a lot of connections and really got a sense of like the culture and the community and stuff before doing a retreat. And I always just try to really humble myself and ask for advice and ask for permission. And I have my shaman here who's Mayan and from the area, and I'll ask her for advice. I'll go to local Temascal ceremonies and ask the land for permission to be doing this here. So I just really try to like tell everyone, like, call me out when I need to be called out, ask for permission. I try to keep learning. I've traveled a lot, so that's helped me really be aware of different like cultural things. Growing up, like you said, as a white woman from a small country farm town that was like a town of only white people. I feel like I traveling has helped me so much. I lived in Haiti for 4 years and married a Haitian. So when you marry someone from a different culture, you really learn about different cultural things. So I feel like I'm just constantly trying to educate myself, humble myself, and ask to be called out when I need to be called out and try to just learn. But yeah, Andy has been huge. Yeah, she's helped me just elevate it so much and elevate myself too.
That was an amazing answer. Not that there's right or wrong, but that was an amazing answer. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being you. That's
Aw.
wonderful. Um, wow. I'm just looking at the questions.
That was a good question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, yeah, my struggle's been a little bit different because I kind of feel like I grew up with my mother's side, so I kind of feel like a cat that grew up in a pack of wolves, or a wolf that grew up in
Hmm.
a pack of cats. And so I
Hmm.
don't really see myself I don't see myself unless I look in the mirror, and not doing that other than brushing my teeth and stuff. So it's weird for me to see things of I guess like this distrust, this like being the face of trauma for a lot of the
Yeah.
people, being a representation of something negative. So that's
Hmm.
been tough because I don't, sometimes know what to do with that. And so I think, but what you said was perfect. Just, humbling yourself and learning as much as you can. And the less you make it about you and the more you make it about lifting others and putting the focus on the work and community and the collective, I think
Yeah.
that helps for walls to come down and for people to see that you are acting from a place of love and from your heart, and
Hmm.
that's what matters.
Yeah, and I think just like speaking out what you just said, like saying like, I feel really uncomfortable. I recognize that I'm the white girl coming in here, like, so teach me. Or yeah, just kind of saying it, or like, thank you so much. I realize it's a big deal that you're inviting me into your space, and just kind of like being real about it.
Yeah, I like that. I just,
Hmm.
being very honest,
Yeah.
brutally honest.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you have for other retreat leaders, people who maybe are starting for the first time, or they want to make their retreats better? Like, what do you think is the most important part to keep in mind when leading a retreat?
I think details and intention, which are both things that you've complimented me on, but I try to be very intentional about every single thing, from, the welcome packet on their bed, the juice in the fridge, like every little detail I try to be intentional about. Like often I've had advice like, oh, well, you could just print it on this cheaper paper and save, but I'm like, but no,
No.
because the feeling of the paper is so important to me. Like
Yeah.
every little thing like that, I just try to be so intentional about all the details. And I really think it is those little details that like set me apart. And whether it's one woman and I'm losing money off of it, or 10 women and I'm making a lot of money, I try to give it that same intention and detail and care. And just, oh, I know another really great piece of advice. I try to think of, and this is probably something that you know from marketing, but I try to think of Radiate Retreat as its own entity that I'm building a relationship with. So I've done tons of practices like, okay, Radiate Retreat, she's a woman in her 30s. She looks like this, she does this. And I'll literally like talk to her and write to her and be like, I believe in you. Please guide me. Please, like, I've
Wow.
really created a relationship with Radiate Retreat as an entity. And even like the Instagram, my friends will joke because like Radiate Retreat will comment on their things very different than Chelsea will. So like I'll be like, "Yeah, girl, you slay," or whatever, and Radiate Retreat will comment like, "Beautiful," with like stars, whatever. Like she really has her own personality from the way that I write when I'm writing as Radiate Retreat. Yeah, so I've tried to really think of Radiate Retreat, even like with buying things. Like I'll be like, okay, this is Radiate Retreat purchasing this or giving to this, and really like separate myself from it. And I feel like that's really what's carried her so far. Even like, my friends now will refer to Radiate Retreat as a separate entity. Like everyone has kind of, even like people that I've had disagreements with, or, breakups with, they'll still be like, well, Radiate Retreat. Like it's really, they're able to separate it because I've really intentionally done that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I have ex boyfriends that are blocked, but they still follow Radiate, and she still follows them because it's like she doesn't need to be involved in that.
That's really cool. You know, it
It's
was
probably a little much, but it's helped me.
No, I think you're right on the money. So was it yesterday? I think it was Wednesday. I was talking to another friend of mine, Steven, who he used to be the quality assurance manager for luxury hotels. Like he was doing it for the W, and then he was going in as like a mystery shopper, just rating the different things about these hotels. And we were talking about what makes something luxury. Like how can
Hmm.
you slap the name luxury on it? And one of the things he
Yeah.
said was, so he gave 5 parameters. I think it was like
Okay.
cleanliness, which is huge for
Okay.
me. I think that you can
Hmm.
up level a space like so much if you just clean it
Hmm.
and organize it
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page there. And
Yeah.
then the second one I think he said was conditions, like the conditions of the building and the bed, the pillows, things like that. And I think he said service, food,
Mhm.
and then branding. And so when we talked about
Okay.
branding, he's like, well, everything that you just said, I mean, it has to be a separate
Mhm.
entity, and everything having to
Mhm.
do with the retreat or whatever it is
Mhm.
needs to be aligned with that
Mhm.
branding. The colors, the
Mhm.
fonts, the logo is like just the tip of the iceberg. But then you get into
Yeah.
like the sheets, the napkins, the smells, the music, the
Yes.
people, everything.
Yes, I love this. And separating it from myself. Like, okay, I would probably choose this, but Radiate would choose this. That's been a whole journey to try to differentiate.
Wow. And how do you do that? Because I mean, isn't Radiate an extension of you? Wouldn't it be what you like?
It's an extension of me, but she's still her own separate entity. So I've done that through a lot of like journaling, like really visualizing if Radiate Retreat was a person, what would she look like? Lots of different meditations and visualizations and yeah, journaling. And I think you can do that with any brand. Like I did that for Rivley for their marketing. We're like, okay, she's like a professional businesswoman in her 40s that wears hot pink. Like I think you can kind of do that with any company or brand. And so I've really just, yeah, a lot of visualizations, meditations, journaling. And it is, an extension of me, like you said, but I'm still able to kind of separate myself. Like, what would Chelsea, the human being, do? And what would, this luxurious, beautiful goddess radiate
Yeah.
choose?
Yeah. I really like that because I mean myself, I have struggled with wanting to be that radiate, luxurious goddess. And
Hmm.
while I may carry her within me all the time, I'm
Hmm.
not always like I'm many things, So I think that's a great way
Hmm.
to. I'll just give you an example. When I teach yoga, I'm very zen. I'm very
Yeah.
zen. I like to go slow. I'm very gentle. I mean, if it was a movement, it would kind of feel like this, right?
Hmm.
But then when I'm not doing yoga, I'm like
Yeah.
this. And I'm a little bit more crazy and funny and goofy and things
Yeah.
that I don't put into the yoga class because that's just not how I like to practice. I like to practice in this space, but I'm not always
Hmm.
in that space. And I
Right.
feel like not having that separation has kind of forced me to feel like I need to embody this all the time. And I feel like I
Hmm.
can't come out of that box.
Yeah.
But if you make that separation, it's like, okay, I can be that here. And
Hmm.
then that is that. And then me is, who I am at any given moment.
Hmm. Yeah, I've talked about this a lot with my business partner, Andy, because she has like her Reiki page, which is Namaste Andy, and her personal page. And she went through like feeling like she didn't want to go out for a drink or to party, but she's like, but I like to party. I like to go out and dance and have fun. And I'm like, yeah, but your Reiki business is not all of you. You're a human being that's a Reiki master and has this business, and you like to party. Like you can be both. And we went through, together kind of a lot of these, it feels like contradictions, but I don't think it's contradictions. I think it's our humanity.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So yeah, it's really interesting to differentiate and work through. And I think there's space for all of it.
I agree. I agree.
Mhm.
Well, this has been a really lovely chat, insightful, lots of value. So I'm just going to ask you one more question. Is there anything, any final words you want to give, and or maybe tell us about your retreat in November because I want to
Oh
know all
yeah,
about it.
thank you for my
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have my last retreat of the year coming up November 5th through 10th in Tulum. It's a 5-day retreat. They're always 5 days. The idea is that every day you get to try a different healing modality. So you get to taste all of it. So the first day we do like yoga and breath work, and the second day, Reiki and sound bath. The third day, cacao and temazcal. The fourth day is more like a spa day, and you get to do a nude photo shoot, and it's like
A
celebration.
nude photo shoot?
Um, Yeah,
Wow.
that was one of the healing modalities that really helped me because I was so self conscious about my body. And I had a nude photographer approach me once and ask me if I'd want to do it. She was a woman, and I was super hesitantly like, okay. And wow, I cried in that photo shoot because I was so in touch with my body and I felt so sexy and beautiful. And that was one of the things I was like, I want other women to experience.
Wow.
Um, Sorry, there's like someone going by with a weird
That's okay. That's
music.
okay.
Can you hear them?
A little bit, but it's part of life. It's cool.
Smelling ice
Just
cream.
let it be.
Anyway, so yeah, so that's the idea of the retreat. You get to try all these different healing modalities mixed with, fun excursions and beach days. Um, so yeah, I have my last one of the year coming up in November that I'm trying to fill spots for. And then we will have more in March. And you can find all of them on my website, radiateretreat.com. And I also have a membership for women who either went on a retreat and want help with the integration back home, or a woman who hasn't gone on a retreat yet, but she's really wanting a community and to learn more about these things. So we share different guided meditations, breathwork techniques, and then monthly we have like a call where we get to kind of work through these things with other women. Yeah, so those are my two big things on radiateretreat.com. And I'm just so excited to connect with you. And thank you so much for having me here. And
Yeah.
yeah, I loved this conversation. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks for being here, Chelsea.
Mhm.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.